We're delighted to be joined again by our contributor, Aseel Mousa, joining us from Egypt. Aseel, welcome back to the Electronic Intifada.
Hi, Nora. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Aseel. It's so nice to see you.
So good.
Nice to
Uh,
see you.
in your latest report for the Electronic Intifada, you interviewed a woman, Yasmin al-Masri, who was ordered to flee her Gaza City neighborhood. And you documented her agonizing experience trying to find a safe place for herself and her children while she herself was pregnant with her son. Can you talk about Yasmin's story and what struck you about
Okay,
her
sure.
experience?
First of all, I just want to say that Yasmin is one of my friends, and I was posting an old video of Gaza City before it was totally bombed or demolished by Israeli occupation. And she told me, she just sent me a comment. Asil, I had to flee like 3 times in less than 24 hours. And she told me, Asil, can you write my story? If I was killed, I want the people to know I was not a number, and I have 2 kids, and please write about us. And I was like, absolutely yes. Yasmin is one of the ladies who stayed in the north of the Gaza Strip. Um, and at the last ground invasion in the north, she was forced to flee her home 3 times. Uh, she received a phone call from the Israeli soldiers, and they ordered her and her family to flee her home, which was in Ad-Daraj. It's in the eastern part of the Gaza Strip. So she moved. It was 2 a.m. and she moved with her 2 babies on foot, and they went to another area, which is Arimal, and it's in the west of the Gaza Strip. Um, she said they were horrified with the sounds of the gunfire and the Israeli missiles and the relentless bombardment. And they made it to Arimal, and then they received another evacuation order from the Israeli occupation to displace the Arimal area. Then they moved to another home, which was partially demolished by the Israeli occupation, and they stayed there. And then they received another evacuation order. So she said, I want to die in my home with dignity. So they decided to go to their home in Ad-Daraj, even uh, if the area of her home was threatened to be bombed. But she has no any other choice. When I asked her, did you think to go to the south of the Gaza Strip? She said no. People are being killed and starved and injured in the south. So I want to stay here in my home. Unfortunately, Yasmin learned that she was pregnant with her second baby at the beginning of the genocidal war. And she told me, Asil, I've never imagined that I will give birth um, in the war. I thought it will end like after a few days or even a few weeks. I didn't think that it will continue to this day. And she was forced to give birth in a Sahaba hospital, which is also um, affected by the war, as it's maybe the only hospital in the north that can help women to give birth and so on. Um, yes, and she told me about the starvation there. She was a pregnant and she had to have healthy food for her health and her baby in her womb. And she said, I was relying on the canned food, which is unhealthy, which is it's not available. Even the canned food is not available, and it's in very high prices. So she lost like 15 kilograms of her weight, even though she's pregnant. Um, Yasmin's story is one of like thousands of the stories about women and pregnant moms and the women who were struggling to survive their children. So I think we need to keep talking about them, even though we are repeating the same stories, the same suffering, the same struggling. But we need to keep talking about them and to let them feel that we are the voice for them as voiceless people.
Aseel, this, as you point out, the story of Yasmin, your friend, is just one of so many countless stories. And as we know, the majority of the population in Gaza is under 18, and a very large number of very young children. And of course, the largest group of victims of this genocide have been children. And as we heard in the news report, now polio has been detected in Gaza, and it's a disease, a virus um, that predominantly affects young children. And it can cause severe paralysis, lifelong um, disability, and even death to children. And it was once greatly feared around the world until the um, the vaccine, the polio vaccine, almost eliminated it, at least in much of the world. And now it's making a comeback. According to the World Health Organization, no uh, what they call paralytic cases have been detected yet. But the Israeli army is reportedly giving its soldiers the vaccine. So that they want to protect their soldiers while the children of Gaza are fully exposed to the potentially devastating consequences of this virus. And as we know, for example, General 𝐄𝐤𝐿 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐨𝐧𝐢, who is a senior general in Israel, a former leader of the National Security Council, right at the beginning of the genocide said epidemics are good. Disease is good because it will help us to defeat the Palestinian people. Um, what are you hearing in terms of just how people are trying to cope with this situation? We know they're up against a situation that they alone can't face, but sadly, it's not getting better. And I just want to know what you're hearing in terms of how people are facing this situation and reacting to it.
What I'm hearing from my friends and my family there in Gaza is horrible. People there are suffering from the shortage of food and water and medicines and everything, literally everything. Um, I keep listening to their suffering as I was one of them one day when I was there. I was struggling to get the basic needs for me and my family. And to be honest, I feel guilty to be in Egypt and I have uh, healthy food and I have like the cleaning stuff that women need in their homes and uh, people there suffer from the shortage of the hygiene things they need to protect their children and their babies. And now it's summer in Gaza and there's no electricity for the 292 days in a row. I don't know if anyone can imagine that, how people will live all these long months without electricity, without even internet. I barely can connect with my family because they don't have internet, and the telecommunication companies um, were like completely bombed by Israel. So when I have the luxury to contact them and to get any information from them, um, all I hear is suffering and according to babies or I mean the children themselves, they actually bear what no one on the world can bear. They face the whole kinds of violations. If we want to talk about the bombardment, um, I'm 26 now, and I feel afraid of the sound of the planes I hear here in Cairo. the sound of the planes always remind me of the helicopters or the F-16s and the bombardment. If we want to talk about the food, and they are like children, and they need to build their bodies, and they need uh, good nutrition. Um, they don't have it. And according to the diseases, that the 2.3 million Palestinians are now displaced. No one is in his home. And those who are in their homes, they don't have the basic needs. So the thousands of the people who are now in tents, struggling to go to toilets and to use uh, or to have water and to have food. Um, I don't know if anyone can imagine how it feels to be in a place where you are in a tent and you are surrounded with like hundreds of tents where people don't have the basic needs. So I don't know what else we can do about the situation in Gaza. People are being killed, injured, displaced, starved, all kinds of violations for long months, and the world is still silent.
Yeah.
Not sure what else can I say.
Yeah. I mean, we were saying at the beginning of this that, 2 or 3 weeks into this genocide, most of us had lost the ability to articulate into words how horrible it was. Like we were saying, we needed to invent a new vocabulary for the kind of barbarity that we were witnessing, and that was 9 months ago. Aseel, can you talk a little bit about what you're hearing in terms of the situation for people in the shelters? Last week there were something like 5 or 6 separate attacks on UN schools that have been serving as shelters for displaced people. Can you talk a little bit about what you're hearing in terms of the conditions that people are in these schools, and maybe some stories that are sticking out for you?
Okay. We Gazans think that the UN facilities are safe places. For me, when I was in Rafah, when I was walking in the street, looking for stories to document, uh, I I used to feel like a little bit safe when a UN car be next to me, or when I am in an UNRWA school. But the thing now is different. I see that so many UNRWA schools have been bombed, and thousands of people were killed. So the situation in the shelters, in the UN shelters, or even in the tents, is hilarious. And I don't know how can I describe that a classroom with like 40 women. You can imagine 40 women or 40 individuals are in the same place. They don't have enough mattresses, or they don't have clean clothes. Um, and their relatives, their male relatives, their husbands, brothers, fathers, and um, their children who are boys, they are in the schoolyard because there are no enough places in the classrooms. Um, People there are queuing for long hours to use the toilet. They walk for very long distances to get drinkable water, and I can confirm that the water there is not drinkable. It's not healthy. Uh, but despite all of this, we can see the resilience of the Gaza Strip. Actually, I read an article in The Guardian like a few days ago. It said that a fleet of more than 100 lorries would take 15 years to clear Gaza of almost 40 million tons of rubble in an operation costing between $500 million and $600 million, a UN assessment has found. Um, we Gazans, when we read this article, we were like, yo, we need 15 years to rebuild Gaza. Until, Asim al-Nabi, he is the spokesperson of the Gaza municipality. Um, he appeared in a video and he said, we only need, according to his assessment, we only need only 1 year to get rid of this rubble and to start rebuilding Gaza. And I was like so happy to see this video, and I trust him than the UN and the huge organizations, because actually Asim al-Nabi, he's the eyewitness of the genocide, and he's a professional engineer, and he's the one who knows the strength of the Palestinians in Gaza, and I actually was so happy to hear that we can get rid of this rubble with only 1 year. And you just showed a video, Noura, about the one who was on the donkey and saying that we will rebuild Gaza and we will get this of rubble. And another video of my friend, he was saying um, how the organizations say that we need so many years to get this rubble. We are 2.3 million in Gaza, and we have no any other choice. And we can work. We are the workers, um, women, children, men, even elderly people. I trust all of them in Gaza. They have no any other choice but to work with their own hands to get of this trouble and to rebuild Gaza.
I just want to say, Aseel, when I first heard you talking about that Guardian article, and I'm glad you mentioned the video by Asim al-Nabi, which I also saw, and I really was also pleased. It really showed the determination and commitment to rebuild Gaza. And so that the Israeli attack is having the opposite effect in terms of people's psychology. They don't want to abandon Gaza. They want to rebuild Gaza. And I remind people that Asim, who is a great engineer and the
Yes.
spokesperson for the Gaza municipality, and he is active on Instagram, where I saw that video. And also, he is one of the last people who saw Dr. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 alive. And Tamara, I just dropped in the chat, we published in December Asim's account of the last days and hours he spent with our dear friend 𝐓𝐡𝐿 𝐄𝐥𝐿, who we miss very much. But again, in that article, Asim talks about his own deep roots and his own, commitment to Gaza. So again, just to say that it also lifted my spirits very much when I heard Asim al-Nabi react to that article and to say, we don't need 15 years. If you give
Yes.
us what we need, we can do it in a year. And that was an extraordinary and I think important statement.
This is who we are, Palestinians.
Yeah, and not just any Palestinians, Gazans.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's extraordinary. And when you think about, after this genocide is over, and you're able to return and you're able to rebuild, like how do you imagine your neighborhood being rebuilt? How do you want to help rebuild it?
Yeah, I am from Tel El Hawa neighborhood. My home is there, and my office is in Rimal neighborhood. I want to clean my home, my office, and even the street, cleaning it with all the neighbors. And just let me mention a short story about my relative. She's 15 years old. Her name is Noor. Um, Noor lives now in Oman, Before the war, she and her mom and her younger brother decided to come to Gaza and to live there because they like to live between their relatives, aunts, and uncles, and so on. They stayed in Gaza for 1 month, okay, and they registered with the summer clubs, the football clubs for the boys, and uh, Noor was going to the gym, and they were very pleased to be in Gaza. When the war started, uh, they came to my home, Noor, her brother, and her mom, and they stayed with us like for 4 to 5 days. Um, and then they decided to travel. They traveled with Yahala company, but at that time, Yahala wasn't taking like $5,000 and $6,000 and even $10,000 for a person to just pass from Rafah to Egypt. They paid an amount of money and they went to Oman, and then a few days ago, Noor came here to visit us again in Egypt. And she told me, Asia, I can't wait to go back to Gaza. I want to clean the street. I always imagine myself um, holding the cleaning tools and helping in cleaning the streets. So when I say that all the people in Gaza, elderly, women, men, children, uh, want to share in cleaning Gaza and rebuilding it, I mean it. I mean it. And just let me say something about Engineer Asim al-Nabi. Maybe the people of Gaza are so emotional and they hate to show their weakness, or let me say that their tears. So maybe they say with emotions that we can rebuild Gaza in 1 year. But when I hear that from a professional engineer, Asim Nabi, and a spokesperson of the Gaza municipality, I felt like I lifted my spirit and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
trusted him.
He understands what needs to go into it, and he's made a professional estimate. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we just have a couple of minutes left. Aseel, what are some stories that you're working on, and what's calling to you right now in terms of what you're reporting on?
Sorry?
What stories are you working on, and what are you looking at closely?
I'm now working on the IDF children who were killed and who were born after like tens of tryings. The IVF children were born with a miracle, and so many of their moms cannot give birth again. So I'm working on this story right now. Um, and I started writing about my relatives who were killed, Dr. Muhammad Abu Ghazza and Dr. Jabir Juda. Um, After like 40 days or 50 days, I had the ability to start writing about them. Um, and sometimes I translate for some media agencies from Arabic to English, and I keep reporting as much as I can. Maybe sometimes I feel it's helpless. I feel I am helpless, and what I'm doing is nothing. But I remember that um, people want to be heard, and God just created us for a reason. And if the reason that God created me for is to be the voice for the voiceless, so this is maybe it's enough.
You're doing extraordinary work, and I think
No.
we all feel, helpless and useless at many times during every day, because it's just so enormous, and there's a lot of grief and rage, and but I think you're right. I think that that we owe it to people to keep their voices front and center, and that's why That's why we do this, and I'm so honored. I know we all at the Electronic Intifada, all of us are honored to be working with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
We really appreciate what you do, Aseel, and it reaches the world, and that's what we can do. That's what we can do, and we have to keep doing it. We can't let our friends, our family, our loved ones in Gaza be forgotten. We have to keep them in the eyes of the world.
Yes.
We're very, very proud of the work you're doing, not just with the Electronic Intifada, but with other agencies. And to see your name and the care and the love you put into your work, reaching so many people around the world, is inspiring to us to keep going.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ali. I'm also
Thank
so
you.
proud to work for Electronic Intifada. It always reminds me with Dr. Rifat, and this is the greatest thing I've ever did, to work for Electronic Intifada.
He told us to tell the stories, and
Yes.
he knew what he was talking about. It's a very important thing to do, not just in this moment. Of course, the most important thing we want to do is to stop this genocide, but
Yes.
history will never be able to deny what happened because of the testimonies, the stories that you and others in Gaza, and many we have the privilege to publish, are telling right now, so that the history will, no one will be able to say we didn't know what was happening.
Absolutely, yes. If I must live, if I must die, you must live. Tell my story.
Aseel Mousa, it's always so lovely to have you. Thank you so much for all of your work. And again, I want to encourage our viewers and listeners to go to electronicintifada.net to read your latest reports. And we can't wait to publish what comes next from you, Aseel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.